It's time, baby. Super Bowl 54, awesemo.com extravaganza, a multi-hour experience here on youtube.com. Dave Lochran with me, Ben Rasa, and a slew of guests breaking down everything from a DFS perspective, sports betting, novelty props, cross-sport bets, you name it. Alex Baker, Awesemo himself, Sal Vetri, Jordan Frank, Chris Spags, Josh Engelman, the whole cast and crew's with us today, Ben. It's going to be a fun one.
Oh, it really is. Yeah, I've been looking forward to this. Normally it's the betting show. I was happy to slide that to the back for this. We've got everything covered. And that's really, Luffy, I was doing a show with Nolan yesterday, and we were just talking about how many different angles the Super Bowl has. It's such a unique event.
It's an incredibly unique event, and it's got to be the biggest overall sports betting day of the year, not just of the year, but by a wide margin, right? Like, does anything come close? Maybe the Kentucky Derby?
Yeah, I mean, but it's not even – it's in its own – like March Madness is big, the Kentucky Derby is big, but this is everybody, I feel like, at a minimum is involved in some way, whether it's DFS, with betting, with box pools. There's just so much to go around.
So here's what we're going to do. We've got a bunch of good segments planned for you. First, in a few minutes, we're going to bring on Sal Vetri. Going to break this game down from top to bottom, hit you with betting odds, the spread, the line, the total, all that good stuff. Then we'll bring on Alex Baker to break it down from a DFS perspective. There's no one better to do that than him, the number one ranked player in the world. And then segment 4, how about this? Jordan Frank, Chris Spags, prop bet time. We'll take them into segment 5, look at some cross-sport bets, which are my favorite. I do think there is an edge to be had there if you know both basketball or college basketball and football. Then segment 6 with Josh Engelman. That's when it's going to get out of control. I can assure you of that, with some novelty props. And then we'll close it out. Ben, looking at this game, usually when it comes to Super Bowls, at least I feel like I know who's going to win, right? At least I have a good feeling. Doesn't always mean I'm right. But in this case, these are two polar opposite football teams. One of them in the Kansas City Chiefs, 1.5-point favorites. You got a 54-point total in this game. One of them in the Kansas City Chiefs has a dominant aerial attack, the best in the league. Their run game is okay, but it's really good only because their passing game is so good. On the other hand, they struggle defensively on the ground. Their secondary has been very solid. The San Francisco 49ers are an absolute stalwart defensively. They slow you down in the pass. On the run, they can make life miserable for opposing offenses. But on offense, this is a team that would much rather run the football 35 times a game than pass. But when forced to do it this season, Jimmy Garoppolo has answered the call.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that I think maybe, considering he only threw 8 times, in the NFC Championship game, I think people aren't giving, and I'm not a Jimmy G guy, but I will say, he has had moments where it's been on him and he has answered the call. It's so interesting. Both teams, the Chiefs defense, obviously they get bailed out at times by the offense and vice versa. Jimmy G and that Niners offense, a lot of times the pressure is so off because they know, if they can put up 20 points plus, it's probably enough considering what they have on the defensive side. So it's the first Super Bowl in a while where it's a virtual pick'em. The Chiefs are a slight favorite, and it makes it very interesting across the board. Even the props. Normally, they have to shade those props, obviously, when one team is a heavy favorite. That's not the case in a game like this.
Do you have a read one way or the other?
So I like the Niners in the game. They're a slight 1.5-point favorite. I see it's around 1. Naturally, we're just trying to pick a winner. The spread really isn't going to come into play, barring something really odd. I trust defense a little more. Per se, I think with the balanced attack, we're going to break it down in full. But if I had to pick a winner of the game, I do think the Niners win the game, yes.
And we'll bring Sal on in just a minute as well. You've got the point total, too, though, at 54. I could see this going I could see this going 2 different ways, and I hate to take the cop-out type approach here, but is there a distinct advantage anywhere to where you look at any of these, the total, the point spread, the money line, and say, I feel good about that?
So it's a very difficult game. I know everybody, it's the Super Bowl. You want to have a bet on a side. It's tough. I just said I like the Niners, and I do. But if I had to make one traditional bet, we're talking the spread, it would be the under. And I know you won't be surprised by that with me, but 54 and a half. I do think that that's a little much. And it's no surprise that I lean to the Niners in the game because I think the lower scoring it is, the more it favors San Francisco. They want to run the ball. They want to lean on the defense. But you're right. I mean, that's the beauty of the Super Bowl, the props, all the other things we can choose from. We have so many spots to try to break down and see if we can find some value.
And you've got some ridiculous props today, like some
Yes.
fantastic player props for Sunday. You can find them pretty much anywhere. And some of them are out of control. Now, there was one, will a player be arrested in Miami on the night of the Super Bowl? You can't beat that. Or how about the fact that the Gatorade prop, did you see the odds change in the Gatorade prop?
Kobe. Yeah. I mean, the purple storming, I saw they pulled that off the board for a while. It's, this is the stuff you can only get at the Super Bowl.
It certainly is. And not only that though, not there are some wild props, but more so you can bet on whatever you want.
That's the beauty of it.
There's no limit to what you can bet. Last year, what color shirt will Adam Levine be wearing? Not only that, but will he take his shirt off during the halftime show? You've got Shakira, you've got J-Lo. It's another question. They're going to come out. Are they going to play their first? Is the first song that Shakira plays, is it going to be Hips Don't Lie? Because it's the only one that I've ever heard of that she's done, and I would assume a lot of people have. Or is she going to save that for last and end with a bang?
This is what I'm talking about. This is the hard-hitting knowledge that we have on the game. I mean, now I've done a lot of shows on Awesemo. I don't know if Shakira has made one, but it's going to make this show. And listen, it has something for everyone. There's a lot of people who want to bet props like that are more fun. And then we have, the more football centric props where you're really trying to break down, how the game's going to go. Jimmy G passing totals, how many touchdowns will Mahomes throw, things like that. And it's just, that's what makes it truly great. Even if you don't have a rooting interest in the game, you're certainly going to have an angle that you want to attack.
I told my wife, she's like, can I bet? She like the Super Bowl. She loves to bet the Super Bowl, but she's not betting on Patrick Mahomes passing yards.
No.
Right. She's sitting here looking at, how many songs will be played in halftime? How long will the national anthem be? What color will the Gatorade be? That type of stuff. Like you said, it's for everybody. We're bringing Sal Vetri on in just a minute, but let me tell you something. Sponsor of today's show, Super Draft. Man, they've been killing it recently with their contest. I say it every time. I don't believe in reinventing the wheel when it comes to DFS, but sometimes some people just get it right, and Super Draft did. There are no salaries. It is a multiplier mode. Like today in NBA, you've got guys like Ja Morant coming in around, I think, 1.4x. Harden and Westbrook are 1x their salary, but I don't want to say the worse you get, but the more volatile players you get, the higher their upside becomes with that multiplier. And you can get $20 in free Supercash just by signing up with us using that promo code AWESEMO, AWESEMO. When you deposit your first $100 or more, you'll get $20 in Supercash. Go over there, superdraft.io, or download it in the App Store. They've got some big-time NFL contests coming up this week. You want to get in all of them. And also, today, doing it again, running it back, $17,500 jump shot for NBA, $3,500 to first. Have you tried Super Draft yet, Ben?
So I've done it a little, but they're making some really interesting pushes with golf. So I'm excited. Obviously, I love the PGA, and you just said it, with DFS, I don't want to say it's solved because it's not, but a different format, it really sets it back in the sense that it's open, it's unsolved. You can find new edges right at the beginning and you can take advantage of that. So the multiplier mode, certainly interesting and something that I'm really excited to explore more as the season gets started.
And if you have questions, comments in chat, we'll certainly be taking them throughout the day. All right. So we got a long show coming up, Ben.
Oh, yeah.
We got a long show coming up.
I'm ready to go.
We're going to keep this one entertaining. I can assure you of that much. There's way too much to talk about. Could probably on prop bets alone go for 3 hours if we needed to.
Oh yeah. We could go for days. I mean, we weren't lying when we were saying that you could bet on anything. We could do shows for days just on props if we wanted to.
So here's how we're going to make the transitions from guest to guest. We're going to go to a screen. We're going to cut for 20 seconds, and we will be back. No more than that. Sal Vetri coming up next, breaking this game down from top to bottom, Super Bowl 54. That's what happens when you got Josh Engelman producing your show. He don't know a damn thing about the 76ers, but this man can produce a show. Josh killing it, as always, producing this one. With us, though, right now, breaking this one down, we've got Sal Vetri at Sal Vetri DFS on Twitter, YouTube channel at youtube.com/ is it Sal Vetri DFS, right?
Yep.
No, just yes, Sal Vetri DFS. I should know that stuff, but what can you do? And a contributor at awesomeo.com. He ran with us throughout the entirety of the NFL season. And, seemed to people, you endeared many people, Sal, and we're happy to have you with us closing the season out on a strong note.
Yeah, man. Happy to be here. This is exciting. Super Bowl. This show, I saw Nolan tweeted biggest one yet, so I'm happy to be a part of it.
No question, man. It is an extravaganza. So here's the thing. Ben and I just opened the show with the general idea that he has San Francisco 49ers winning this one. We didn't get into the weeds yet. I haven't given my pick, but I think the Chiefs get this win. I think Andy Reid finally gets a victory. And I just don't know if you can stop Kansas City's passing attack. What's your general overview on a game like this that, Ben, you mentioned is pretty much a pick 'em? It's a 1.5 point spread, but I don't think there's any clear favorite or clear edge to either team where you say, you know what, this game could be over by halftime. No question about it. Unlike last season where it wasn't fun to watch, wasn't competitive. I think this is going to be a great one.
Yeah, I agree. So right now where I lean just overall, and this is one of the tougher Super Bowls, and you can see some spots.
I said the same thing.
Yeah, some spots it did open as a pick 'em. A lot of spots it stayed the same. There's really been no movement. The 1.5 point favorite for the Chiefs. I right now have a bet in on the Chiefs. Favored 1.5 right now, took the points there, but it's a situation where, like, looking at it, it almost seems like just taking the 49ers money line is the most appealing because you get the plus money on something that just looks like a coin flip. So I'm in right now on the Chiefs. I made that bet, I believe, a week ago at this point. And yeah, we can get into the weeds on it more. I think there's a lot of outs for their offense. There's a lot of different ways. If you just look at how they match up against this secondary, we saw it earlier in previous matchups. Tyreek is just one big out that you have. You can put him anywhere, and it's a mismatch. But then also just guys out of the backfield is another out that they'll have. And I'm very curious to see if they're going to do anything with LaShawn McCoy in this game, if he'll be active.
I don't know if he will be active.
Yeah,
but he wasn't. I mean, he had one snap in the divisional round.
Yep. Yeah, and then he was the healthy scratch in the the AFC Championship. I think obviously Williams is their better play, but if you have any type of package for what these outs are, and the big thing that stood out to me with just player props, you guys will get into it. There's a lot of props, even for guys like Anthony Sherman, right their fullback right now, Damian Williams, for just a lot of reception props for those guys, just indicating that it's going to be a way to just beat this blitz, beat this defensive line. And I think those are talented players that I feel good with the ball in their hands.
Yeah. Look, here's the thing. It all comes down, Ben, to who can dominate on the defensive end, because I don't know if you have the game going under. But
I do. Yeah. I mean, it's funny because what Sal described is similar to how I see it, but I lean to the Niners, where I feel like they have multiple outs in the sense that, we saw against Green Bay, they just ran it down their throat. The Chiefs front, we've talked about it. Yeah, they shut Derrick Henry down to an extent, but I think that was more Mahomes really when we look at it. But I don't think it's a non-zero chance that the Niners have just a ton of success on the ground. Then, Lofty, you mentioned earlier, Jimmy G at times has answered the call. I think that is possible. Then there is a chance. I know this Chiefs offense is something kind of unique in the league, and it's almost impossible to really stop. But the Niners defense is well equipped to get some pressure, especially with the front four. I think there's a chance the game goes way under, and they're limited like that. So I see multiple different avenues for the Niners to get it done. But that's what's the beauty of this game. That's why it's a virtual pick 'em, because both teams have a lot of weapons and a lot of ways to be effective.
Sal, the Kansas City Chiefs, as Ben mentioned, did a really good job of limiting Derrick Henry last week. I mean, this is a guy who lit up a good Baltimore Ravens defense, made the Patriots look like they didn't belong in the postseason. Tannehill didn't need to throw 100 yards in either of those games. Derrick Henry averaged over 70% of their total offensive yards through the first 2 weeks of the postseason, and then came into Kansas City at Arrowhead Stadium, and he couldn't get much going at all. I think he finished with 69 yards on a ton of carries. That was the way to shut Tennessee down. Similarly, you need to be able to slow the ground game down, in my opinion, in order to really be able to at least take a lead over somebody like, or a team like San Francisco. Can Kansas City run back what we saw in the championship round against a potent rushing attack?
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting. You saw in the NFC Championship game just the different types of schemes that Shanahan was using, and it is the best run blocking scheme in the league, in my opinion, were fantastic. And it was a matchup against both Preston and Zadarius Smith on the outside, where he knew he could take advantage of guys who crashed down a lot and kind of toy with them. And they did that all game, and they did it the entire game. They just didn't throw. In this matchup, I think it's going to be a little bit more difficult to do that one, but you can come out with different types of schemes, and we don't know what Shanahan has planned. So, yeah, if you're betting on the Chiefs like myself and you're hoping and you're thinking that they are going to be able to stop the run and force Jimmy G to throw. The downside there is the Chiefs are the most susceptible in the middle of the field, which is exactly where Jimmy G in this offense feels the most comfortable. So yeah, there's arguments to be made on both sides, and I can make them, and that's where the pick'em comes in. I think at the end of the day, what you're betting on if you're on the Chiefs side in this one is you're betting on who the better quarterback is in the game, very equal coaches, and you're hoping that Mahomes just makes one more play than what Jimmy G is going to do out there.
Sal, do you have the game in terms of the total? I know you obviously are leaning to the Chiefs. Do you think that they just outscore them, or do you think they can win a game that maybe falls, with a total like, a 24-21 type game?
Yeah, I don't have any bet in on the total yet, but I lean the under. So did you say you're on the under right now?
I'm on the under. Yeah, I think that favors.
Ben's always on the under.
Yeah, I'm always on the unders. You know me. But I was just interested to see if you think that, for the Chiefs, do you think it's best suited where it gets out and gets moving, they lean on Mahomes, or can they win that kind of grinded out type game?
Yeah, I think so. That's how I'm like building this narrative out right now. And even for like some of the showdown stuff for DFS, just winning in a close type of game, but having the under, nothing crazy under like we saw last year, I think from a similar total. But yeah, I think it's a situation where the 49ers are going to do what they think they can do, run short intermediate passes. Maybe Jimmy G takes some big shots downfield. That usually capsizes their offensive upside to an extent if the Chiefs can do anything by stopping the run. And then on the Chiefs side, it is still a tough defensive matchup. They're a quick fire offense, but you put a juggernaut of this defensive line, secondary number one in the league, makes it a little bit tougher. So yeah, I think this is going to be one of the lower scoring games that we've seen from the Chiefs. It was crazy. I think I saw Mahomes starts. There's only been like 2 that have gone under 24 total points for the Chiefs. It's nuts.
I guess the big question too, Sal, is are the San Francisco 49ers equipped not to slow down Kansas City, but are they equipped against they rank number 2 in pass defense DVO. I think you mentioned it. Are they equipped to slow down Tyreek Hill? Can they contain Tyreek Hill? Because over the years, what we've seen is really dominant pass defenses still have no answer for Tyreek Hill and Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, and I really don't think they will have an answer. And it's what you were saying, like slow him down in terms of just bracketing him. I think the way that you do it is you just put Sherman on what's probably going to be Hardman and more of Robinson, them two on probably the right side, left side of the field. We saw Sherman a lot move with Adams last week off of his left side of the field where he's regular season 95% of the time. So I think he'll be fine moving if it means that it's moving away from Tyreek. Even if you put Sherman with the safety over the top, I think that's going to be their number one priority is just forcing this Kansas City team to run the ball more. And I think that's where San Francisco thinks that they'll have an edge. So yeah, I think they'll be able to at least attempt to slow him down. I really don't think anybody can. We've seen the Patriots try it in the past. They really haven't had much success. So it's a situation where the Chiefs are going to need those second guys, whether it's Robinson. Hardman ended up playing 2 more snaps, ran 3 more routes in the AFC championship game. How can they get those guys involved, whether it's end arounds, Hardman moves into the slot a little bit more. I think that's where they'll end up winning this game. How can those secondary guys make some plays?
Sal, you just mentioned, I actually wanted to ask you, this is the perfect time to do it. funnel them to the running game. You have Damian Williams. We know that he's been full workhorse mode. I know you alluded to this earlier with LaShawn McCoy. Do you think, A, that he will be effective, and B, if he's not, do they split him out? Do they do something unique in the backfield, or are they just going to go straight one-dimensional with Mahomes possibly taking the full game over?
Yeah, in terms of Damian Williams?
Yeah, I mean, what do you think against him with this front? He's had a ton of success, 3 touchdowns during this playoff run on the ground. What are they going to do if, A, he's rendered ineffective, and B, do you think he can move the ball against San Fran?
Yeah, I think a really good idea, and something that this last 2 weeks I imagine like Andy Reid and the coaching staff has been looking at is, look, his total right now is 13.5 carries, 4.5 receptions. I think extension of the run through the passing game, he's fantastic there, especially with the ball in his hands. But taking something, it's just copycat league, taking something from what you saw in Shanahan in that last game and running just a ton of misdirections on this front. This front is one of the highest blitz percentage defensive lines in San Fran in the league. You have Bosa, who is a guy who's just known to crash down. In a situation like that, running a lot more misdirections with the running game can be a way to kind of get a benefit there. So I have Williams kind of getting there more in the passing game. But I do think if you're going to try and toy with their defensive line like the 49ers did with the Packers last week, you just kind of use some of their own, I would say, magic against them with some more misdirections.
Sal, flipping it to the other side of this game, let's get into a little bit of the tight end position. George Kittle, in 2 postseason games this year, 2 career postseason games, has 3 receptions on 5 targets for 16 scoreless yards, and caught his lone target for 19 yards against Green Bay. That did not go for a touchdown either. So all in all, 4 receptions, 35 yards, no touchdowns. And that's what you've got out of George Kittle. Now, it makes sense, right? I mean, at least in those 2 games, George Kittle wasn't needed. Tevin Coleman went for 100+ multiple touchdowns against Minnesota, and then Raheem Mostert lit the world on fire with 4 touchdowns and arguably the best Super Bowl rushing performance Super Bowl era postseason rushing performance we've ever seen. Do you think that Kansas City, as Ben mentioned, Ben had asked, do you think they can try and funnel them to the run? Do you think, and I know we're asking you a ton of different scenarios here, but with a game like this, we have to cover every front. Do you think it's possible also that, I don't want to say San Francisco gets exposed, but they do get lit up and George Kittle ends up going off for 100+ yards in this one because his services are way more necessary than they were in their first 2 games?
Yeah, I like a lot of Kittle props right now. I haven't placed any just in all different areas. So his matchup in the middle of the field, like downfield, he'll get more of Tyrann Mathieu. That's not great, but anything in intermediate or short range will be fine. And the first thing that I went to look at once the Super Bowl was said and all these props are out was what they had on just Jimmy G pass attempts. In some of the past weeks, you've seen it 26, 24. This week it's 29.5, which makes sense in a matchup against Kansas City. So that gives me a little bit more confidence that you're going to see more pass attempts. Kittle's around a 25% target share type of guy. So I have him projected right now for 8 targets. His prop number is 5.5 receptions, around 74 yards. So yeah, I think this is a bigger Kittle game. Kelsey on the other end has very similar numbers, but if you're on the San Fran side of it, whether it's DFS or just looking at it from a game perspective, I do think the matchup sets up well for Kittle, who finished the year as the PFF number 1 tight end.
Yeah. Sorry, Laffy. I was just going to jump in. With Kittle specifically, as Sal mentioned, one of the things that I was looking for, you touched on it with Jimmy G's passing attempts, was Kittle for the MVP. I like the Niners in the game. Jimmy G, of course, is going to have the first crack at it. He is the quarterback. I know you like the Chiefs, so it's somewhat of a loaded question. Obviously, Kittle's not winning MVP if the Chiefs win this game, but he's sitting, and your odds are going to vary, and we're going to touch on these throughout the show. But I saw Kittle around 15-1. If the Niners win the game, I know you don't think that. Do you think he's going to be a big part of it? Or is that something that could be potentially valuable?
Yeah, so this is where it becomes more difficult from, I would say, like the amount of action that I have down on the line itself is nowhere near what I have on props. Mm-hmm. So like I have props for different spots. I don't have a bet on Kittle, but I have him down in a spot 16-1. There's also a prop for just a tight end position winning for plus 900. Tougher to see Kelsey getting it, but I don't think a tight end's won yet. These tight ends are very much better than your normal type of tight ends you're going to see out there, like Kyle Rudolph's and whoever else. But yeah, I think that Kittle for MVP is interesting. I have a bet play. So right now, if we're looking at MVP stuff, Mahomes is interesting because he's like plus 100, plus 115, unless if you're on the KC side and you just think there's no way anybody else wins MVP, you might as well just bet Mahomes MVP and not even touch the line at that point. But that can clearly go just different ways. If Tyreek has a big day, and wide receivers usually the next best bet to win MVP. So I like the kind of just QB number on MVP. It's still minus 230. It's not great, but I also have a bet in right now. It's the longest bet that I have in anything in the Super Bowl, but it's on Armstead plus. I think it's plus 12 or 12,500 right now. For
12,500.
Yeah, so that's 125 to 1. That is
125 to 1. So
yeah.
Yeah, it's a situation where we've seen these types of linebackers and just defensive ends. Bosa's the one with the shortest odds. He would be the one that I would think gets it. But if you're looking for a flyer, that's where I put it on. At that point, you just need something of a 1 to 2 sacks and a turnover type of thing. It's completely long odds, but a disruptive player that I like that number on it.
Yeah, and when you look at Super Bowl MVPs, the odds are, it's evident, of course, that the quarterback is far more likely than any other position to get that. So I guess one of the big questions here, and when you look at previous Super Bowl MVPs, I'll save last year's for a minute. Nick Foles, Tom Brady, Von Miller, Tom Brady, Malcolm Smith, Joe Flacco, Eli Manning, Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, Santonio Holmes, Eli Manning, Peyton Manning, Hines Ward, Deion Branch, Tom Brady, and it goes on, right? You got a few defensive players mixed in there along the way, and wide receivers at times. What would it take, right, for George Kittle or Travis Kelce to be the MVP in this game and not have it be Patrick Mahomes or Jimmy Garoppolo? In order for these guys to have a good game, there's probably going to be at least decent numbers for their quarterback. What's it going to take for one of these guys to get you where you need to go without it being the quarterback that gets the MVP?
I think it's very similar to last year with Edelman. You need a lower scoring game, and it's much easier for Kittle just because you see 6-7 more pass attempts projected by Vegas in this one for Mahomes. So he just has an easier time to spread it around. But the concentration of San Fran's passing game is very much George Kittle there. So he does stand out. And I think the thing that it takes is a lower scoring game where he's consuming a lot of that upside. If it's a Jimmy G 220, 230, where his prop sets right around their yard passing game with a touchdown, and Kittle's got 115 and a touchdown, he stands out in a victory as the guy who probably deserves it most.
For me, so I was on a similar wavelength, and actually we just got a super chat from this, and we really appreciate that from Short Sleep. He mentioned Richard Sherman, who's way up there as well, 60, 70 to 1 range. And the thing about him is not that he's more likely to score, but if he has a big play, there's a potential that he could get in space. And that's really where you could flip the script when you're looking for a dark horse MVP. If there's a defensive touchdown, whoever scores that, because Lofty, you are right. Like, you need such a high concentration of target share for a tight end type pass catcher to win MVP.
Right.
Because even if he has a couple touchdowns, if Garoppolo, say, threw 4 touchdowns to Kittle, probably going to be Jimmy G. And that really does shrink that narrative.
So let's close it out with this, Sal. I'm going to ask you, we were doing just, basic betting odds, but we'll get a couple of your favorite props before we let you go. And just to recap, who do you have in this game? If you're taking the spread, you're probably 1.5 points. The money line, there's not much on that anyway, but the total, and then a few of your favorite props.
Yeah, so I've right now a bet in on the Chiefs 1.5. I don't have anything on the total, but I would lean the under. And yeah, there's some props that I like. I'm very much on a lot of Emmanuel Sanders stuff right now. I have him for an anytime touchdown at plus 240. Have him for a special prop. It's a parlay prop of 75 receiving yards and a touchdown. That's plus 650. And then one that I really like is total players to attempt to pass over under 2.5. I took
Love
the over
that.
Took the over at plus 125.
We've seen that recently in a lot of Super Bowls where the coaches break out the secret play. There were 4 players to attempt to pass in Super Bowl 52, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, these are 2 of the most creative head coaches and offenses in the league. You might not even need a flea flicker type of a trick play. They might just line up a Travis Kelce under center or just something like that. We've seen Damian Williams go under center a couple times this season. As long as you get a pass in there, that's going to hit pretty easily.
You got anything else, Ben?
No, I think that is something, Philly special-esque type plays do come into play in the Super Bowl. Want to be creative even on special teams. But I think Sal summed it up good, man. We really appreciate you hopping on.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate it.
Best of luck this weekend, man. And hey, remember, follow Sal at Sal Vetri DFS. Check out his YouTube page, youtube.com/Sal Vetri DFS, and all of his work at awesemo.com. We will be back right after this, 20 seconds. We got master producer Josh Engelman working behind the scenes to keep things flowing. Alex Baker, that's right, Awesemo himself, #1 ranked DFS player in the world, taking us through this showdown slate. Millions of dollars on the line. Don't go anywhere. 20 seconds. We'll be back. From Sal Vetri. Happy to have him join us on our final NFL show of the year. It's the man himself, Alex Baker. You look good in blue, brother. Glad to have you with us.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I'm looking forward to talking some Super Bowl with you guys because it's been a whole week since we've been able to play some NFL DFS.
Oh, you weren't heavy in on the Pro Bowl?
Oh, actually, you're right. Yeah, you guys grind that.
I actually did bet the Pro Bowl, Ben.
Nice.
Did you really?
Oh yeah.
I didn't even bet that. That is a good for you, man. Yeah, we got the band back together. We couldn't go a full week. Alex, you're down there, aren't you?
Yeah, I won some tickets to the Super Bowl. It was funny actually. Like I max entered this charity contest, not even like intentionally, and the first prize was Super Bowl tickets. So that's the most likely result was $750 to a great charity, but I'll take some tickets.
Sometimes there you go. I like it. Yeah, I saw you were down there and good stuff, but I'm glad you could hop on with us. As Lovey said, Showdown never sleeps, man. These pros are massive.
Yeah, they absolutely are. And you've got, I mean, on Super Bowl Sunday, the $4 million Super Bowl 54 millionaire maker, $1 million to first. It's a monstrous contest. You've got $1 million to first and 150,000 to second. And then it all drops off pretty precipitously. So before we get into the actual plays, Adam, Alex, by the way, anybody that's wondering, he is the #1 ranked player in the world. He's the one that pays our salaries here.
Keeps the lights on.
What's that?
Yeah, he said he keeps the lights on for us all.
He keeps the lights on at Awesemo and developed all of the tools and uses all of the tools over there at awesemo.com. So definitely happy to have him closing this one out with us. One of the ways that I think you've always been successful in playing DFS, Alex, is you don't conform to popular opinion. And I think everyone now understands that like you have to be different to win these monster prize pools. On a 1-game showdown slate with $1 million up top, what do you do different? What strategy do you take into such a unique format like this?
Yeah, I think you're hitting on an important point. This is like a one-off. You can't use the same strategy you've been using all year because there's 470,000 people in the biggest tournament this week, and the number of regular players didn't double overnight. These are all casual DFS players, and the thing is that the people playing DFS who don't play on DraftKings a lot, they're going to be extremely predictable in these contests because they're going to try to build the strongest lineup that they can using the salary, and that's not like a very good approach in this kind of tournament because you're going to just duplicate your lineup with thousands and thousands of people if it's an obvious combination.
Yeah, I mean, Alex, you and me did the Thursday show throughout the year, breaking down Thursday Night Football, and we talked about that a lot. And, for effect, I used to say, you're going to be sharing that with thousands of your best friends. This time, I really mean it. There will be lineups that will be duped by literally thousands of people. It's such an atypical format. You mentioned the casuals, and with so much information out there, it is a huge thing, as Lofty talked about, to not conform to some of the obvious things. So right off the top, Alex, I just wanted to ask you, is there a general rule that you think can maybe, for people who haven't played Showdown before, that you might want to stick to when trying to attack this one game slate?
So I think it's going to depend a lot on the tournaments you're playing. The advice for the Millionaire Maker isn't going to be very relevant for a tournament that's much smaller. So I'm going to focus on the Millionaire Maker because I'm sure that's what everyone wants to take down here. And I think the key is just leaving a lot of money on the table. I'm not talking about like 500. I'm talking about like 2,000 or more. Because in football, I mean, we see it every week. There's like guys in the optimal lineup, but that don't equal the full salary cap. So a lot of times the optimal lineup doesn't use all 60 or 50K, and anything less than 50K, like the farther away you are from that number, the less owned your lineup's going to be.
So we always talk about being able to tell a story with your lineups. And I know you guys did the Thursday night show. Ben and I did a full year of Showdown slates. Three fellas talking football a couple seasons ago. So we all have familiarity with doing these. There's, like you said, it's a one-off, and it's even different than any other Showdown slates we've seen this season. Before we get into telling that story and how we think things are going to go, what are some ideas for leaving, like you said, following up on your last point, leaving salary on the table? When you do that, I think people are probably asking, how do I do that without having a lineup that just has low floor, low ceiling, without really the ability to hit on what I'm looking to do? When you're doing something like that, trying to leave cap space over to be different in the field, what are your kind of requirements to where it actually makes sense to come in with such low salary?
Yeah, I think one of the things is maybe coming up with a lineup that isn't easily like dominated by better lineups. So like you're leaving money on the table, but not enough to get like Mahomes in there or something like that. But I think that there's a lot of cheap guys that have pretty reasonable chance to make the top 6 players on the slate. Guys like Demarcus Robinson and Mecole Hardman. We know that wide receivers can always have a fluky play, especially with Mahomes at quarterback. It is a little bit trickier for Super Bowl because a lot of the like bottom of the bench guys won't be on the field at all. But also going for like kickers and defense, everyone's going to think this is like a shootout. So loading up on some of these cheaper options as opposed to the skill position players could work.
Do you, in a game like this, and with every showdown, we always talk about, you want to tell that story. You want to kind of base it on how you see it. Now, we were talking at the top of the show, this is basically a toss-up game. We have the Chiefs as a 1.5 point favorite. Does that mean that your lineups are, I don't want to say split down the middle, but, in some of these games where one of the teams has a really low implied total, you kind of shade towards more of one side. In a game like this, what do you do when you have two teams that are so equally matched?
Well, I think that going 5 from one team and 1 from the other has an inherent advantage because if one team doesn't score a lot of points, that's going to be the optimal construction. And it's much easier to get the right combination of players in that construction because there's just fewer ways to build a lineup with 5 guys from one team and 1 from the other. So that's one thing to play for, even though it's a pick 'em. We know that football, pretty much any result could happen. And if you have that result in your head and you put it in the lineup, then you have a pretty good shot.
So let's jump into the players here. We'll start with the Kansas City side. Alex, you've got a run game that Ben mentioned when we had Sal on moments ago, a run game that has been dominated by Damian Williams. I think it was like Darwin Thompson and LaShawn McCoy saw 1 snap each. in the divisional round. And then Damian Williams dominated again, 17 carries, only 45 yards, but he got into the end zone in the championship round against Tennessee. He's now scored 4 touchdowns in 2 games. So while his efficiency hasn't been particularly strong on the ground, he's made up for it with a good amount of receptions, a receiving touchdown. Can he repeat this week? Is he worth paying for? Is it worth targeting the Kansas City run game against the stout San Francisco defense? And granted, when I say is it worth targeting, it's a 1-game slate. So we're going to have pieces of everything. But in terms of prioritizing, where are you coming in on Damian Williams in the Kansas City run offense?
I love Damian Williams because, as you mentioned, Darwin Thompson and LaShawn McCoy barely see the field, and LaShawn McCoy wasn't even active last week. So you can count on Damian Williams to be on the field the whole game unless he gets injured. And that's incredibly valuable. I have him as about a 70% chance to either be the top scoring player or one of the top 6. You can access that in my top showdown plays on the website. So it's not a lock that he's gonna be in the winning lineup, but he's one of your safest bets this week.
Yeah, I mean, Alex, one of the things behind the paywall that I really like is where you show kind of that ownership and maybe some of the guys that are under and over leveraged. In a game like this, when you have limited options, that can make such a big difference. Now, we know some of these guys, Mahomes and the top players, are going to be massively owned. You alluded to some of those lesser pass catchers, particularly on the Chiefs. Is there a guy kind of down there from either side that you think maybe, I don't want to say sneaky because we know they're going to be popular, but someone like a Harden or a Robinson that may be a way for you to get a little different right off the bat?
Yeah. It's pretty tricky to pick these guys out because they have to be on the field. So that eliminates most of the options. So really we're looking at Robinson, Hardman, maybe a little bit of Juszczyk.
Your boy.
I know, yeah. It's hard to click that button, but also Matt Breida. Those would be the real cheap options that you can go do this week. I wouldn't recommend kind of dipping down for anyone else.
Do you see Tyreek Hill putting up a monster performance here? Do you see him being limited? In terms of exposures, like where you're coming in on certain players, is there anybody that you're just in love with this week outside of Damian Williams?
Yeah, I think that one common strategy in Showdown is you fade the quarterback at captain. And that's something we see every week is that a lot of the smarter players, they'll play the skill position players at captain. But this week, I'm not doing that at all. I love Patrick Mahomes at captain. On the other side, though, I really don't like Garoppolo at captain. And the reason why is Mahomes has so many targets. The chance of him being the highest scorer is much higher than one of those individual players that he's throwing to. Whereas Garoppolo, there's basically 3 guys with Kittle being the biggest target. And then we have Sanders and Debo. So I think the fewer targets there are, the greater chance that one of those will be the captain if San Francisco excels at the passing game.
Ben, it's funny Alex mentions that because we kind of just talked about that with Sal in terms of the MVP voting, right? Or the MVP odds. Like when it comes to George Kittle having a potentially higher concentrated amount of targets, pretty much what Alex is saying just from a DFS perspective.
It's true. It's amazing how many of these things, kind of mirror each other and correlate to an extent. And I actually just wanted to ask a follow-up on that with you, Alex. Captain that's step one. You got to nail that captain. With these prize pools and these contests having so many, I'm going to say casuals in there, do you think that the quarterbacks are going to be even more inflated at that captain position? I know you just talked about, maybe taking a shot with a skill position player, but do you think people's natural instinct is to just click in the Mahomes or the Jimmy G and work from there?
I actually think that's like the best strategy. I think the mistake a lot of people make is they'll try to play too fancy at captain and get a value play at captain.
Like a kicker?
Yeah, that you see kickers be like 1 or 2% owned every week at captain. And
oh my God. Do you remember when defense won like 3 weeks in a row at captain?
Oh man, yeah. There have been some rough showdown slates this year. But the problem isn't that those spots don't have a chance of being in the winning lineup. It's just that you can't build as many rosters around that, because not spending up a captain, you got to pay up at all the flex positions, and there just aren't very many ways to do that well. So my preferred strategy is getting one of these like chalkier captains and then trying to dig a little bit deeper at the flex spots.
We have ownership updated over at awesomemode.com. If you actually wanted to get a month for $54 in honor of Super Bowl 54, just use the promo code LIV when you sign up. LIV at checkout, awesomemode.com/join. That's a $36 discount from the monthly cost that is your normal cost, $36 discount. LIV. Because we've got Super Bowl 54 coming up. You get ownership projections, player projections, all of the tools developed, used by Alex Baker, Awesemo himself, all of our articles, the Fantasy Cruncher add-on, the lineup builder, the boom bust tool. There's so much there. Check it out for yourself. awesomemode.com/join. At checkout, use LIV as your promo code to get $54 month, $36 off. So Alex, we have the projection or the ownership projections, and well, Patrick Mahomes, no surprise, is getting the most ownership. But right now, we only have him at 13% captain spot ownership in terms of his projection. I mean, a lot of that is because his price tag, if you're paying for him in the captain spot, leaves you with only what? $6,200 remaining for your 5 flex options. Is that going to prohibit people from getting heavier ownership on Patrick Mahomes in the captain spot?
Well, I think that it does make it harder to build around him, because you can't like throw Hill and Kelsey in your lineup and have very many options left. But I think another thing is that a lot of people, they're building more than one entry. They're building maybe like 5 to 10 by hand, and the tendency I think people are going to have is just picking a different captain for each one. So I think we're going to see the ownership pretty spread out among different players.
It's interesting you say that, because I do think, there's a mindset, and I don't like to infer too much, but people think it's one game. Like, if I have a handful of entries, I'll just like cover all the bases. And yes, you do get some outs, but for me, I know when I'm doing that and what you just talked about, if you really like a guy at a captain, it's more about filling out the rest of that roster. If you get him right, maybe you get the value plays around him and things like that, which is why, what I think was super valuable is you mentioning those guys earlier in the show who maybe not on the field a ton, but can really make the difference. This is just kind of more of a fun question, Alex. Do you think it's possible that we see a unique winner? There's just so many teams in this. It's hard to imagine, barring something insane. But do you think that is possible?
Yeah, I think the most likely result is we see a split for like $700 per person or something. Like, out of the 400,000 people, like 10,000 tie for first or something like that. But I think if you can make a unique roster, like, you have a chance to win. And I think the people are going to really clump around the strongest combinations of players. And if you are willing to deviate a little bit and get a little bit riskier, of course you want to do this in a smart way. So no like backup quarterbacks or whatever, but that gives you a shot.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about not wanting to get to value plays. Just to kind of tie all of your thoughts together for the viewers, Alex, is there anywhere specifically that you don't want to go? When people are building lineups, like we said, say you're putting 150 in there, you're likely going to end up with a bit of everyone. But are there any spots that you just feel are entirely unnecessary? Like, is defense off the board for you? Are kickers off the board for you? Or do you think all of them have some relevance in a slate like this?
I think defense and kickers are pretty good. I do like defense at captain a little bit more than kicker at captain, because it builds more of a narrative that has potential. But the guys I would avoid are just like the backups that maybe see the field like a few plays a game. If you're counting on an injury to win, that gives you very few outs.
Like it. I mean, this is good stuff, man. We really do appreciate it. We'll let you get back. I know you're probably on South Beach running amok down there, but have fun. Obviously, Alex, if you want to just give a quick, the tools behind the paywall with Showdown specifically.
Yeah, man. I'm finding out what Harden experienced down here. But
Times are tough.
I think so we got so many great articles and videos in front of the paywall. And then if you want to really take your game to the next level, of course, this is the last week of NFL, but the projections, the ownership, the top players tool that I was referencing. And then make sure to check out the stuff for other sports that you like, because these are all weapons you can add to your arsenal to get better results in fantasy.
Absolutely. Last question we got to ask you. Who's going to win the Super Bowl?
Man, I honestly am so torn between the two. I'll probably be betting on whether it's heads or tails rather than betting on the result.
Fair enough.
Alex Baker, Awesemo, number 1 ranked player in the world, and the man behind Awesemo.com. Head over to Awesemo.com, check out all of his and our work. Alex, thanks so much for joining us, man. It's been a blast. Enjoy Miami.
Thanks, man. It's always fun.
We will be back coming up. Prop bet time. This is where it's about to get fun, fellas. We're bringing on our boy, Chris Spags, regular NFL contributor, and Jordan Frank. You've seen him on the betting show with Ben Rasa. Don't go anywhere. A few seconds. We will be right back here on the Super Bowl 54 Awesemo Extravaganza. Did you know that if we hit 5,000 followers on Awesemo NFL handle on Twitter, we'll be doing our biggest giveaway ever. That's right, our biggest giveaway ever. We're also giving away 5 monthly passes, $300 total value. All you have to do is go to Awesemo NFL, retweet, like, and reply, and follow, and you will be randomly selected to win. Just pick the team that wins the NFL Super Bowl 54 game, and you will be entered to win one of 5 monthly passes, a $300 total value. Head over to @Awesemo NFL and enter that today.
I think we're good to go? Question mark.
Let's
do it. All right. Look at this. Now we are ready to roll. As Lovey just said, this is where we're going to try to keep it on the tracks, but this is where it's going to get fun. Prop bet time. We got Chris Spags. We've got Jordan Frank. Obviously, me and Luffy sticking with you. First, how are you, fellas? Jordan, I get to ask you every morning, so you get the first dibs. How are you on this Friday?
I'm doing great. I've never been more excited. I feel like we're coming out of the shadows here. The sports betting contingent at Awesemo is truly front and center now. So this is our Super Bowl, so I'm going to take it. I'm excited.
Oh, yeah. No, it's good to have you guys. Obviously, Spags does a ton with the NFL. Here to get into it, I'm just going to get right off the top. I certainly want to hear you guys' thoughts on the game. We'll start with a prop that we talked a little with Sal Vetri about, which is MVP. I know that alludes to kind of who you think wins the game, Spags, but right off the top, if you want to dive into it, do you have a lean at MVP, and kind of what are your thoughts on the big matchup?
Yeah, I mean, look, it generally is going to go to the quarterbacks. I think the most recent time we've seen that really deviate was a couple of years ago with Von Miller. That was the year that Peyton Manning had his noodle arm and still won the Super Bowl. And even then, the media still kind of wanted him to be the MVP. But I think either way, I would heavily lean towards Mahomes. Obviously, Garoppolo, there are some game scripts there. I think one thing I heard this week that I really liked is the idea that Kansas City's probably going to come out shooting, because that's the one way to keep the Niners defense back on its heels, maybe mitigate that pass rush, is Mahomes just comes out and throws hard right away, doesn't play it safe. So I think if he does that, you could see more value for him, and certainly more value for Jimmy Garoppolo, who's thrown like 26 passes in the first 2 playoff rounds. You think he's going to need to score more than that today, or more than that this weekend, rather. The run game can get there, but I would really want to favor the quarterbacks. I think people will think Mostert's a good value. We'll maybe go to some of the receivers, but I think the quarterbacks are they're the glory boys. They're the most beautiful boys out there. I think they're going to be the ones who get the most attention.
No doubt about it. I mean, it's hard to imagine. We talked a little about that, unless a skilled position player or a defensive guy really gets in the mix, Jordan. We were talking about this last Friday a bit on the NFL betting show. Is that your thoughts? Do you really echo what Spag says about the quarterbacks? It's hard to imagine them not being the favorites at this point.
Yeah, it's hard not to agree. We talked about this last week, like you said. The quarterback has won the MVP 9 of the last 13 years. There's definitely a strong trend there. Obviously, running back and tight end have never won the award. I'm sorry, tight end has never won the award. A running back hasn't won it in over 15 years. One thing I heard you guys talking about was obviously Mahomes' price at MVP. I think if you think the Chiefs are going to win this game, I would just bet the money line. I don't think I would mess around with getting a worse price with Mahomes. So that's something, Ben, you and I talked about that last week, but It's hard not to agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, you look at running backs too. And by the way, what's up, fellas? It's good to have you on with us. Spags, glad to have you back, man. You look at the Super Bowl MVP over the years, and something we discussed with Sal and with Alex is when you talk about a tight end position, Spags, essentially in order for them to put up an MVP worthy performance, the quarterback needs to be just okay or not very good at all, and everything has to get funneled through the tight end. My only issue with that, and look, crazier things have happened, okay? Maybe Harrison Butker wins it and everyone gets rich that bet him. But the issue I have here is that you look at New England and the Rams last year, Julian Edelman, 10 for 141. He's your MVP. Is it possible? I know Ben said he's got the under here. Is it possible that this Kansas City team is engaged in a game that ends up going low enough scoring to the point where a tight end could win or a defensive player could win the MVP?
I would say I would err on the side of no. I think for the showdown lineups, you guys talked about that with Alex a lot. I think if you want to get weird there, focus on the defenses. That seems like the logical move. But I think we've seen this Niners team throughout the year when they've played an offense that's really is willing to attack them. That game against New Orleans, they were certainly bringing the fight to New Orleans first, but ones against Arizona, ones against Seattle as well. You see guys have big days offensively against them when you really do force the action. I don't think the Kansas City goes down without a fight here. Andy Reid finally avoids the Bill Belichick shadow in the playoffs, gets a shot here. I don't think he's going to run the ball 50 times in the game. I think this is just a very obvious route to the pass game success here. I do think Kittle's kind of an interesting option if you were going to pick a player to break that schneid because he does block, and I think that could be something that maybe the more advanced media guys will respect. The fact that he is such an elite run blocker. PFF's top-graded football player on the year is really a noteworthy thing for a tight end. And he can also have those big catch and run plays where maybe if we remember Kittle having some like iconic beast mode, vintage Gronk run where he smashes 5 dudes in the mouth and runs downfield, and Garoppolo gets credit for an 80-yard touchdown, but it was literally Kittle running 75 yards of that. I think that's the way you could see it happen. But we're talking, Ben always says it. You're talking about then relying on an outcome within an outcome. And I think that's sort of where I would be reluctant to go. And I think people just see Jimmy and want to see, again, I don't mean to keep calling him beautiful, but he has that beautiful face up there. That's what people want on the podium. They want to be having him Gillette ads at the end of the game.
Jordan, you look at tight end props for this week though, and you've got Travis Kelce 74.5, George Kittle 73.5. It does feel like one of these games where George Kittle, coming off of 2 really disappointing performances, could just absolutely erupt in the event that Kansas City, Travis Kelce likely having something to do with that, puts up numbers of their own. I just have a tough time believing, and I want to get your take on both of those receiving props for starting tight ends on the Chiefs and the Niners, but I just have a tough time believing that that there isn't going to be more of an aerial attack on both sides of the field based on what the other teams force them to do.
I agree with you. It's hard to argue against that, right? But I agree with Ben. I think the only place that I see value in this game is on the under. And when you kind of start with that point, it's like, okay, how are we going to have distribution between these 2 tight ends with scoring and with receptions? To me, I guess number one, I want to make the point, like props, you have to shop around because these odds and numbers vary wildly wherever you're looking. So if you want to bet the under on any kind of prop, like shop around and wait until as long as possible because the public is always going to want to bet the over on these receiving and rushing props.
And
That
the
being
yes on everything too.
And yes, everybody wants to have fun. I mean, I want to have fun. Like, this is the Super Bowl, but there's always going to be an edge looking under on a lot of these props. Now,
Ben, they got crushed last year. The public betting the over and yes on everything, just annihilated.
Yeah, that was right. I mean, I wish it wasn't the Patriots, but Jordan, he's right, but he's also wrong. Not everybody, because I'm sitting here. Give me a 6-3 game where the team with 6 got 3 safeties. That's right in my wheelhouse.
There you go.
I love the unders. I love ugly props. You guys mentioned and Spags, just to open it up a little bit more to these pass catchers. We know Kittle, we know Kelsey. Obviously, the Chiefs have Tyreek. He's in the mix for everything over the top burner. But specifically, I mean, I'm happy to get your thoughts on him. I see him about 73.5, give or take. But I want to ask you about Debo and Emmanuel Sanders. They weren't needed against the Packers. He only threw 8 times. They're both, middling in terms of receiving yards. We've got Debo 54.5, Emmanuel Sanders 43.5. What do you do with them? I know Jimmy G's expected to throw more, obviously. Do you have a feel with those kind of next options for the passing attack for the Niners?
I think the overall focus for a lot of people out there will be Debo. You think he's the guy who's going to excel. He's had the best run really down the stretch here for the Niners, but I'm intrigued by Sanders. It feels to me, and this is a very lofty comparison for Emmanuel Sanders, but it's kind of like a 65 Corvette that you probably renovated yourself. And you're like, I don't know if I'm actually good at remodeling a car and getting it where it's supposed to run. But like, they've just been keeping him in the garage, and maybe you break it out this weekend because this is your time where you've invested him in with some draft capital this year. You brought him onto the team. I think that could be the thing where you're going against your play type, going against really the last 2 months of the season where it's been Debo getting a lot of the work. I'm intrigued by Sanders over-unders just because I think that he's a guy who can see a lot more work here, and he's just a competent guy who you're going to trust the rookie who's, I think, very talented, does get the jet sweeps, does get those handoffs and all that. So if you want to take a Debo rushing yards prop, I'm okay with that. But I think in terms of the pass game props, I'm really intrigued by Emmanuel Sanders, and I think if you need him, like, this is what you got him for, is this game right now. I think this is the time to go to him.
Jordan, let me go back to your point about betting the unders here. Now, do you think are you betting? I'm not saying are you betting, but do you think betting the under is the wise move and the nose because there's more value there? Or is that how you actually see this game playing out?
I think a little bit of both. I mean, I think you're always going to get more value when you bet the under, just because, like I said, the public is always going over. You want to wait as long as you can because those numbers will keep going up. I also think this game lends itself to a lot of unders. But there are certain props that I definitely want to talk about that I like over. And Kittle and Debo are 2 guys that I do like over. And part of it is because I just think San Francisco is going to open it up more than they have the last 2 games for sure, right? Like, everybody has the bias of the last game with the 6 for 8 completions for Jimmy G. I don't see the game going that way. Jimmy G's completions prop and attempts prop, right? His total attempts is 29.5. So Vegas is setting that number incredibly high compared to what we've seen from Jimmy G, knowing that people are still going to bet the over, right? That tells me so much, right? Like, Vegas is setting that line at 29.5. They know that it's going to be a different game plan.
That's something that, Spags, just to really touch on that again, I don't know about you. When I saw Jimmy G's, and maybe it's recency bias on my part, when I saw his passing attempts, I didn't think it was going to be approaching 30. Did that seem high to you? I know maybe it's just when you see a guy throw 8 times in a game, you don't think it's going to make a leap back to where it is. But, what Jordan says, what do you feel about Jimmy G in terms of his volume?
Yeah, I mean, I really would err on the side of thinking he throws more. 30 does feel kind of lofty, but I think there's just so many ways that can occur. And I really do believe in the game script. I mean, Warren Sharp, I think, is one of the sharper, no pun intended, but I guess pun intended, analysts out there. And he's a guy who I really respect the things that he says in terms of the breakdown. And I really do think, he's really heavy on the idea that the Chiefs are going to come out slinging it. And I think the Chiefs are going to find success if they sling it. I think they're also going to sling it fearlessly. And I do think, defense, I err on the side of defense does matter. I think this Niners defense is one from the beginning of the year. I was like, these guys kind of have the eye of the tiger. And I do think that they are very talented, but I think you're talking about Patrick Mahomes, a guy who, even if he regressed this year, he's still been so amazing. That just means you're going to see more action for Garoppolo, I think. I just don't think they can keep the Chiefs offense at bay long enough where Garoppolo doesn't get summoned into action. And the Garoppolo tide will rise with all of that. And I think that's sort of where the 30 mark comes from. But it does feel high, but I think that's, everything feels kind of high. Like, even the 54 point over under feels kind of high based upon what we know of these teams.
It is. I mean, that's the uniqueness of the matchup. And then Jordan, because I like I said, I like the Niners in the game. But the one thing that does concern me is what happens if Mahomes comes out swinging and they take them out of a rushing attack. And that goes to kind of the props with a guy like Mostert. His attempts, it's sitting, I see 16 and a half, about 80 yards on the screen. Do you worry that he could get phased out by Mahomes being effective? Or, we'll see what Tevin Coleman can give them. He went out with a shoulder injury. It looks like he's going to play, but where do you stand on the backs for the Niners?
Yeah, I feel like it's the same analysis we've had the last few weeks with the Titans, right? Like, who's going to flip the script on Tennessee and actually get up on them and make them throw the ball more than they want to and make them one-dimensional? So I feel like it's the same kind of analysis. Nobody's been able to get on the 49ers for a while. I want to kind of turn this back on you guys. So if you look back at that Saints game, which was week 14, so we're talking about a month and a half ago or so, that was a game where the Saints got up by 10 points 2 different times. It caused and forced Jimmy G to throw the ball a lot. He ended up with a huge game. The 49ers win that game 48-45. Can we glean anything from that game? That seems like the last time where the script was flipped on the Niners and they really had to throw the ball a lot, and they were pretty successful against a good Saints defense in New Orleans.
He did it against Arizona twice as well, too. I mean, the New Orleans game was clearly the most exaggerated.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's done it before. And I think the one difference between like comparing it to the Titans is, at least with the Titans, you knew, Jordan, that it was always going to be Derrick Henry if they are on the ground game. In this case, if Tevin Coleman's active, will Shanahan run the hot hand? It's still possible that he does, which makes it even harder when you're looking at Raheem Mostert rushing props, in the high 70s.
Agree with you. And I was looking at the Tevin Coleman. His prop is 5.5, maybe 6, like shop it around for carries. I mean, are we sure he's even playing? Like,
Nope.
I want to just bet the under right now, and I may do that. You can certainly bet the other side if you need to, if he is playing and you feel worried about it. But there might be some value just to bet the under. We saw, obviously Mostert had the most hot hands ever, 2 weeks ago against the Packers. What's Shanahan going to do here? Nobody knows the answer to this. Obviously, we're just speculating. But, if Coleman plays, it's really hard to assume. I don't know. Are you guys assuming then that Mostert gets 90+% of the snaps?
Well, let me throw this over to Spags, because I don't know. But I also want to throw in, Spags, that Damian Williams has been the bell cow in the postseason. On DraftKings Sportsbook, under 50.5 is even money. So if you're taking either side, whether it be something from whether you feel good about something from San Francisco, or do you see Damian Williams putting together a decent performance here despite not cracking 50 rushing yards in each of his first 2 games?
I think Williams, so I'm a little more worried about Williams from a DFS perspective, where I would not surprise me, and this is just my gut throw. So I guess one other real far-fetched prop you could throw is a LaShawn McCoy TD would not be the most shocking thing in the world. If he's active, I think that's the one thing where maybe we see Williams have some tough times, kind of like he did versus Tennessee, and then you go to McCoy. Andy Reid clearly has a soft spot for him, even though he hasn't played him down the stretch. If he's in that lineup, I think I'm willing to take those stabs. But Williams, I think he's going to be involved. I think he's going to be more involved as a pass catcher, honestly. I think I could see him getting the play action routes just to get him the ball in the flat, just to keep them honest, to try to keep the pressure at bay. I'm intrigued by Williams. I think the workload is there for him. I feel more confident in him than I do in Mostert in terms of the workload, but I think Mostert is really the guy there. I've seen some of the bets, and I think Jordan mentioned that Coleman's carries were at 6. I saw them at closer to 10 in some of the books that I was looking at earlier. So if you're down to 6, I'm very much in favor of that. I think Coleman gets the looks. I think it's a question of, is he effective with them? But yeah, I think to me, Williams has the much more secure load, and really the running back situations for both sides just seem kind of perilous. And really the one thing I would get away from more than the pass catching side, where I really think we've talked about it at length, but the pass catching to me seems like the thing. The rushing, I think you could probably take a bath. And the outcomes even that seem the most likely, I think wouldn't be shocking if we were just like, oh, Matt Breida got 15 carries today. What a day.
Oh, I mean, we've seen, just to go back a couple of weeks, when the Niners played the Vikings, Tevin Coleman was an afterthought in DFS. He was nowhere, and then he exploded. And then the next week it was Mostert. So we'll see. And Specs, you just bring up, something we all talked about at the beginning of the show. shop around. You just mentioned Tevin Coleman. If you have a read on that prop, depending on where you're looking to bet, you can get a lot of value. I want to just transition a little bit. And Jordan, I know you've been waiting for this. We've talked about this on the Friday show. The shortest TD. So that is a bet. What will the shortest TD be in a game? It's always set at 1.5 yards. And me, being a donkey, always thinks, well, there's no way there's going to be a 1-yard touchdown. And then there's a 1-yard touchdown basically every game. It's on a ridiculous streak.
It is.
Jordan, go ahead. I know this is your baby. First of all, it's going to start being juiced to yes.
It is.
What do you make of it? Can the streak continue with a 1-yard touchdown here?
I don't see why not. Why stop now, right? Like, we're cashing this prop at just an insane clip right now. So Spags, I'm sure you're not tracking this prop as closely as we are. It's won 6 straight games and 8 out of 10 in the playoffs this year.
Unreal.
And it's not even cashing on pass interference. Like, everyone just assumes, okay, you get pass interference in the end zone. There you go. You're going to get the 1-yard touchdown. A majority, I think almost all, there might have been 1 or 2 that were pass interference, but the other 6 that have cashed are just random 1-yard touchdowns. And of course, there's so much randomness as to whether someone gets tackled at the 1, but it just keeps cashing. I mean, obviously there's a point where you're just paying too much juice to make this wager, but
one that they catch a touchdown, they're probably not catch one from the 20. So I think that's also a thing too, where there's a lot of ways it can happen. So I agree. Like, I'm willing to ride your guys' hot hand here and willing to be completely wrong when we go 1 for 7 on that. Actually, not.
So there's a crazy one. Well, I won't call it crazy, but definitely makes things a little bit more confusing. Did we lose sound?
No, Josh got us back in business. We're all good.
So let me ask, I want both of your guys' takes on this, and then we can start getting some of your favorite props that we haven't talked about yet. So on the DK Sportsbook, right, and I'm sure you can find this other spots as well, there's a bet, Spags. It is, will a team score 3 times unanswered? 2-point conversions, field goals do not count, okay? So will a team score 3 times unanswered? The yes was minus 230. No was plus 180. So I said, Ben's a sharper sports better than I am. I said, Ben, does this seem right to you? Should yes be minus 230 to score 3 times unanswered? So that would mean Kansas City or San Francisco has to score whether field goal or touchdown 3 times without the opposing team scoring in a game that has a 1.5-point spread. And Ben said, you know what? Every time it seems like it's crazy, and every time it seems to hit on the yes. So what are your thoughts on this? Because I thought it was a crazy one.
That seems like really high odds in favor of that.
That's what I thought.
The game script, I mean, but this is the game script we've talked about, is that if Kansas City jumps out, I mean, they're scoring, and we have seen Kansas City also playing from behind all year too. So if the Niners run defense does what they do and they mash with the outside zone, and, and Mostert or Coleman have monster numbers right away, that can very easily happen too. We just need to see really 2 stops of the Chiefs if the Niners get the ball first, and then that's it, field goals or touchdowns, and they're there. So it doesn't seem crazy. I wouldn't want that bet. Like, I don't know that I love that, but I think it does give us a little more confidence, I would think, in just the game scripts that we talked about.
What do you think about that, Jordan?
This is one every year that people kind of have the same reaction, but I mean, there's a reason it's juiced so much on the yes side, because it happens over 60%.
Did it happen last year?
Last year, I can't remember. Probably.
I can't imagine it did, right?
It's such a low scoring game. I don't know if it did last year, but traditionally, a lot of it too is like halftime. Like, you don't realize, okay, maybe somebody had scored 2 times in a row, and then they get the ball to start the second half. It's actually one that I bet many times. The juice has gone up over the years. This was kind of a secret. I don't want to say secret, but kind of like one where people like, oh, there's no way this could ever be a yes. And it was cashing pretty consistently for a while, but the books of course, adjust. And the price, you said, is minus 230. So, I mean, that's getting steep.
Minus 220 now.
220. Yeah.
It didn't happen last year. And what a terrible game that was last year. Just like drive summary. It was 0-0 in the first quarter, 3-0 in the second quarter, 3-3 in the third. And then the fourth quarter, the Patriots pulled away 13-3. But really glad. I think we all just take a moment to say, glad the Patriots aren't in this one, potentially ruining this game for all of us.
Yes,
that's for sure. And you bring up something, the Patriots first half unders were just crushing every Super Bowl. For whatever reason, there was something there that it's not a nerves thing, you wouldn't think, right? Like Brady had been there 9 times or whatever, but cash every single time under first half Patriots.
The most long shot bet I've ever cashed was the first play of that game. I had bet first play of the game to be an interception. First pass of the game to be an interception. Lo and behold, Tom Brady gets picked off. It was as lucky as you could possibly get, but then it sets you up, Ben, for the rest of the night. So even if you lose every other bet, you're still in the black.
Well, that's why people bet the coin toss. It's like a Band-Aid. If you hit that, you're free rolling. Quick return. I do want to say really quickly, a comment from Chad, and this is absolutely super sharp. Kevin Cutler said this, now with the league, they do review all scoring plays, and a lot of touchdowns that teams wouldn't have challenged, they say he's down at the 6-inch line. And that is helping that prop. That's something I haven't really even considered. That's why our viewers are quite sharp.
And Morgan Freegan gave us the Madden prediction: Chiefs 35, 49ers 31.
We got the Madden prediction. I know there's the octopus, but there's all sorts of metrics out there, if you can call them that. But Spags, before we transition to, because we got a couple cross sport props that we want to talk about, is there anything else in the more generic traditional prop market that you want to hit on before we move on?
Yeah, I saw one bet for the anytime touchdown scorer, and Mahomes is at a plus 700 or plus 400 here. I really like Mahomes in the games where it's just a tough defense. And we kind of saw it against the Titans with that one really big run he had. Sure. He will do it with his legs a little bit more. So I think any rushing prop with Mahomes, I'm intrigued by. Also, another way that, from a DFS perspective, just thinking about it the way that we do, one way that maybe the receivers have a little bit less value is Mahomes running. And again, he was willing to run there. The Niners, I think, maybe not prepared for Mahomes to run a bunch, and he's very fleet of foot. So I think anything rushing prop-wise you can get with Mahomes, I'm willing to take those stabs because I really like what I've seen from him in that front. And just looking like a young Josh Allen out there, which is what we've always wanted out of Patrick Mahomes, I'd say.
And all things Josh Allen. I know you're a Josh Allen guy. Love him. Love him. Jordan, what about you? Anything else you want to touch upon before we get real egregious with some cross sport?
There's so many, but let me pick a couple that I think are interesting or at least fun to talk about. How about this one? This one is so random, but actually, Spags, what you brought up is really interesting about the Mahomes rushing, and that's one that I think we could dig into for like 30 minutes, talking about the front four pressure from San Francisco. Like, is that good or bad for him rushing? Like, he needs to get out of the pocket quicker because they get so much pressure. That's a prop that I'm kind of going back and forth on with his rushing yardage. Here's a total random one that you guys are going to like. So Bill Vinovich is the referee for this game. I don't know how closely you've been watching the referee assignments. He did famously or infamously the NFC Championship game last year, right? Rams Saints. Everybody knows what happened at the end of the game. There is a prop plus 150. Yes, there will be a roughing the passer penalty. So he is one of two guys who can call that penalty. It can only call that penalty. I'm definitely betting the yes on this. I think if there's anything close, he's already under a microscope after what happened last year. I feel like that's a lock. What do you guys think?
What are the odds on that?
Plus 150. Yes, there will be a roughing the passer.
I like that.
I do too. I mean,
take it to the bank.
I'd be lying if I said I even knew that existed.
It exists.
They got everything, man. There is everything. Let's close out with this before we get to some cross sport bets. If you know me, these are my favorite. And Spags, we talk NBA every day, different shows, but NBA every day. It's really fun to see what some of these sites like Westgate, Superbook, Jordan and I have been talking about the ridiculous amount of even cross sport bets that they have available. A lot of great stuff. So if you had to pick, we'll go around the horn. Ben, you too. We'll start with you, Spags. If you had to pick one player to score a touchdown anytime in the game, who's it going to be?
To score a touchdown any time in the game, I would say, just based on how I predict the game to go, I'd probably go Damian Williams, just because I think there's a lot of ways that he can just get that easy 1 yard carry that we talked about. So he would probably be my guy. I think he'd be my guy.
What about you, Ben?
It would be George Kittle. I think that he's
Ooh.
going to have a big game here and that they have to get him involved to win the game. Even if they're running it effectively, I cannot imagine that they can get by with what they did against Green Bay.
Okay. I love it. Yeah. Touchdown score for George Kittle scoring a touchdown is plus 110.
That's a little heavier than I would have wanted, but I still do really like him.
All right, Jordan, close it out.
Give me Kelsey, but I do want to also say first touchdown scored is a really fun prop that I like to bet a lot. And I really like McCole Hardman, like long shot. He's 20 plus, like 20 to 1, 22 to 1 to get the first touchdown of the game. So lock me in for that one.
That one reception could definitely be his touchdown.
You get it on the kickoff return.
And the kickoff return. That's where you really get it. That's where the edge is.
And to be fair, like you see it all the time. Sammy Watkins had a huge game last time out. The guy hadn't had more than 4 receptions more than once over his last 8 games leading up to that. So anything, DeMarcus Robinson, anything can happen with this Chiefs team.
Agreed.
No doubt about it. All right. So boys, I want to hear how you do this. Spags, I want to start with you. As Lovie said, you can bet on anything. And so many of the books have so many cross-sport props. What do you really do with something like this? Before we're going to dive into some fun ones. But is this something where I know you're an NBA guy, like do you look at ones particularly for that, or do you look for props that you like on the NFL side and then try to find, ones that match up against something? What is your really feelings on cross sport props in general?
So, I mean, because of NBA being so projectable, and obviously we have the best projections, not to go into shill mode right now, but Osmo's projections are, generally doing a good job across the variety of ways you want to use it. And we have had reports of people who've been subscribers to the site using them for player props. So I think for me, I'd rather find the football bet I trust the most first, because I'm confident I can find somebody there to pair it with. Like some of the ones I've seen out there, Zion Williamson with the Chiefs or LeBron with the Chiefs or whatever. Like I'm confident I can figure out the Zion or LeBron parts of it. Whereas the Chiefs part, I'd rather find the site that's going to give me the best, outlook on whatever the Chiefs totals are, the combined totals of points plus the team and all that. So yeah, I would definitely go football first and then just work backwards from basketball because, the matchups are pretty easy to predict in basketball. If they're playing, I forget who New Orleans is playing offhand on Sunday, but if they're playing in a matchup where, Zion's going to have a pretty decent run, he's getting 30 minutes a game. I think it's easier to figure that out than it is to say, oh, the Chiefs are getting +3 or +4.5, whatever the case may be.
Jordan, there's a real good one here. And like, I just have a lot of fun discussing these. I think they're a blast. Westgate Sportsbook. If you guys watching want to follow on page 18, you can check all of these crazy ones out. But with the way that James Harden has been playing, I can't help but look at this and just I have a very difficult time with it, but only because we've seen James Harden look like a different player over the past few days. Here it is. James Harden points, and this is my favorite one, points just from an entertainment standpoint. So James Harden points plus rebounds plus assists or longest touchdown of Super Bowl 54. Now Harden is, mind you, Harden -1.5 here. Okay. So you're putting, I got to add 1.5 yards onto whatever that to win this, but James Harden points, rebounds, assists, or longest touchdown of the Super Bowl. If this was any team not named Kansas City, I'd be like, oh, okay, give me Harden all day long.
Yeah, you're right. And there was another Harden prop that I really like as well across sport, but it's hard not to look at his recent performance. He was injured. He just came back, but he's not been shooting well. You're right. Like if it was any other team, I'd probably still lean towards Harden, even the way he's been playing, but give me the Chiefs with the long touchdown. I think we're going to get there with the Chiefs.
You just want Hardman to break like a 95-yard touchdown and just cash all these props at once for you.
For as the first score would be nice.
I mean, the Rockets are playing the Pelicans on Sunday, so I don't know about that one.
I know.
That's the problem.
I'm so glad you brought that up because the matchups in these bets are so important. And this game, I'm serious, this game is going to, Spags, this game's going to have a 243 total probably.
Yeah.
It might be 245. Seriously.
No, these are two of the fastest paced teams in the league, and New Orleans doesn't play defense, and the defense probably getting worse with Zion in the mix as well. So yeah, I would actually err on the side of Harden there, but I think this is one of those things where, again, you have the projections in front of you, get a read on that when Osmo has them Sunday morning. I think that's where you want to look at it, because I would guess Harden's probably good for 40 points, maybe a triple double in there. So you're saying you need a 60-yard touchdown. If we're at 50, we're cool. I think 60, we're starting to push the limits of what can happen against a really good defense.
So one of the things I wanted to bring up to you guys, and listen, with these props, if somebody doesn't play, it's a wash. But there are Luka props listed. Now, you guys are more NBA dialed in at this point than me, but I did see that he tweaked the ankle once again. They have him giving 4.5 points over the Kansas City points that will be scored. They're playing the Hawks. It's a great matchup on paper and whatnot, but with Luka maybe limited, I don't know if they just straight sit him and it's a void. That's something that kind of caught my eye.
Yeah, he's supposed to be out the next 2 games, so I would think. Well, I mean, that would just make the bet null and void, right?
It would, yeah. Now, It would only be if they decide to give him a go. I know he was sitting 1, but that is something I do see open on some bets. But yeah, most likely it's a wash. But worst case scenario, you just get your money back.
Now, if you can find a Porzingis prop that's been released and has. Because Jordan, one thing, and you do the betting show every Friday with Ben. There's something about player props that is beatable in terms of they're not as sharp when if you're getting to, I'd say, passing yards for Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl, obviously. But when you're getting to certain players that in the NBA that kind of aren't as popular, that's where I always like to look. And sometimes it's fun to find stuff like that with cross-sport bets in the Super Bowl. Sure, most of them are big-name players, but we've got Will Barton props. We've got Zach LaVine props. We've got a few that aren't exactly household names to everyone either. Jaylen Brown and such.
100%. I can promise you the sportsbooks aren't spending that much time and effort setting these lines. There's limits, of course, how much you can bet on these props. But you're right. You can definitely find more inefficiencies with cross sport, with players like Jalen Brunson, like you said, who maybe is going to have a big role now on Sunday with Luka out. There's definitely more opportunities. Again, you maybe can't bet as much, or you need to find the specific prop at the sports book that you bet at. But again, there are definitely opportunities.
I just imagine putting on a fake mustache and going to a bunch of books and be like, I'd like the Jalen Brunson prop, please. It'll be like, nobody will be the wiser. It'll be the crappiest version of Uncut Gems that ever happened.
Yeah. I mean, listen, for people talk about
Isn't that how you do it?
It's limits are an issue, but for so many people, if you're having fun with it, that's not going to be a problem. And they have,
you could still put, it's not like your limit is $50 on these bets. You know what I mean?
No.
Yeah, you can get a couple $100.
Yeah, absolutely. And they have everything. I know for me, there's some college bet, there's some golf ones with the waste management going on against, some of the Mahomes props, and that stuff is really fun. Obviously you can find what you want. I know you boys mostly NBA, right, in your wheelhouse, but for me, made up college basketball teams, one of the ways to do it, no doubt about it.
This is where I see Ben coming in. New Jersey schools points on the 2nd of February, or 49ers and Chiefs. These Jersey schools, Ryder, Monmouth, St. Peter's, that is right up Ben's alley right there.
Don't sleep on the Peacocks.
That is for you.
Yeah, St. Peter's is a scrappy team. I bet them the other day, no joke. But that's neither here nor there. Anything else? Obviously, we're going to get your predictions for the game before we get on in here, but any other cross-sport props that Spags you want to mention, or do you think it's just mostly NBA for you?
Yeah, I think it'd be mostly NBA for me. I haven't really dug in. I'm not in the college basketball mindset like you, which I admire, Ben, that you are there from day one, getting in the hunt with all of that and taking advantage of some of the lines there. But yeah, I think the NBA props, you have a really fun slate there. And as the guys mentioned, there's some injury news, and I think that is a DFS player, something you're equipped by. I feel like, not to go to Uncut Gems as a reference again for the second time, but that was literally just him playing a fantasy lineup. And I think that's sort of what player props are for a lot of casinos. I think that's something to take advantage of where you can. And these cross-sport props, I think, for the Sunday game with the NBA slate. It's a lot of good games on Sunday right beforehand. And be a bummer, though, if you lose your prop right away. So that's always the downside.
Exactly. Before we close it out, I'm going to ask you one more cross-sport bet. And then, Ben, you can hit Jordan with one. We'll get predictions. We'll head out. And we'll get to the novelty props, which is going to be, we're not even, Ben said try and keep it on the tracks. We're not even going to bother with the next one. But Spags, I like this one. for you. Russell Westbrook over the last month, I'll set you up here. 37% usage. He's just been a monster. And you're seeing an incredible amount of production from him. And his minutes are up as well. Almost 40 minutes in regulation recently, what we've seen. You've got Russell Westbrook against the Pels. You have Russell Westbrook points or Chiefs and Niners first half points. Chiefs, Niners first half points minus a half a point too.
I would go the Westbrook side on that. I feel like this is a game, I think we talked about it maybe starting strong, but there are ways that it can also peter out a little bit in the beginning, a little bit of the nerves that happen for these teams sometimes in the Super Bowl. So I would go the Westbrook side on that. I think it's intriguing. And, the Harden Westbrook props, I think would be ones I really would find interesting because of the reasons we mentioned with the matchup with the Pelicans.
All right, Jordan, I'm not going to put you on the spot here, but I have a prop up right now.
Okay.
I don't know if Westgate has it, but this is right in your wheelhouse. It is what will be more, Australian Open men's finals completed sets, so the number of sets, or Travis Kelce receptions, and he is a 2.5, not point favorite, but you got to lay 2.5 with Travis Kelce. So do you think he'll have more than 2.5 more receptions of the number of sets for the Australian Open tennis?
Yes, give me straight sets, Joker all the way.
Joker.
No doubt about that. One more prop that I saw that I wanted to mention to you guys is Giannis. Total points, they're playing Phoenix. Now, obviously, Milwaukee, incredible defense. Is Giannis only going to play 28 minutes, but he averages 30 points a game. So Giannis minus 3.5 versus the 49ers points. The 49ers implied total is about 26, 25.5, depending like where you're betting the total at. I don't know. It seems like a layup to me for Giannis.
It's just so difficult because the guy could literally play 24 minutes in any game.
Phoenix, yeah.
It certainly seems like a layup, no doubt. But it's so hard to predict him, and he's coming off an injury. I don't even know if he's going to play. But I don't mind it. It's a hard one for me to predict. Speaking of predictions, Spags, you first, then you, Jordan. Close us out. Winner, what are you taking here? And are you going over or under on this 54-point total?
I think I would go over. I'd go Chiefs 31, Niners 28. So a little bit higher than the over there, but I think the scoring does happen early and often. And I think that's sort of where I'm going to make a lot of my DFS lineups with that. And certainly a lot of the bets that I'll make too will definitely veer that way.
Jordan?
It's a tough game. I mean, I'm definitely going under, so I'm going to wait as long as I can and hope to get 55, maybe 55.5. So I'm definitely going to bet the under. I'm kind of vacillating back and forth. I want Kansas City to win. I'm probably going to wait to bet this game and look for some in-game opportunities. But if I had to make a prediction right now, I'm going to go with the Chiefs in a nail biter and the under.
I like it. Well, good stuff. Thanks for stopping on, Spags. You specifically, I know you just said you haven't been in college. We got a month or so to rest up for our March Madness show. We're running it back this year. No doubt about it.
That was good. I made some better brackets because of you guys. I'm really curious to see what Josh's take is on the Gatorade coming up next, because I'm really rooting for Red because Andy Reid does look like the Kool-Aid man, and that would just be the most perfect symmetry of all for me.
Big odds change. They took that off the board, though.
I heard you guys talking about that. What was there, insider trading going on with the
Yeah, apparently Kobe. Yeah, everyone wanted purple, apparently, for Kobe. So
Kobe purple, baby.
That dropped, but that is what we're going to be bringing to you right in a couple minutes. Quick changeover, and then the man behind the glass is joining us, Josh Engelman, coming up in a few to talk egregious props.
segment here with our favorite producer and host and analyst. It's Josh Engelman. Novelty props time. When we were discussing this show, Ben, you know this, when we were setting everything up and kind of trying to dictate how it was going to go, Josh is like, dude, I'll definitely come on to talk about Gatorade and what people are going to be wearing. And I mean, it's a perfect opportunity to close out the show with this.
Those are the best kind. Yeah, I mean, it's true. When we were discussing the show, we have so many contributors and we're like, all right, let's pair everybody up. There was no consideration to who should do this segment. This was in Sharpie marker. Josh Engelman put it on the board. We knew that from the get-go.
By the way, I was muted for everything that I just said.
Well, it was
I've
good.
had myself muted in the show the entire time so that I didn't slip through the cracks, and then I forgot to undo that. Ultimately, all that I said was, I don't care about the Super Bowl whatsoever. I'm in for the dumb bets that nobody has an edge in.
For sure. Yep. So let's just start off with a couple soft ones.
Okay.
Okay. One of my favorites. Will there be a double doink? You know the double doink. Yeah. We saw it. I know, dude. It happened with my Philadelphia Eagles winning against the Chicago Bears. Will there be a double doink? Yes, plus 700. That doesn't seem like a good enough odds to me to get anywhere close to that.
No, I'm not betting on a football hitting the uprights twice at plus 700. I don't even think that I would do it at plus 7,000. That is preposterous. Right. No, next prop.
Yeah, that's bad. Oof.
All right.
What if it hits 3 times?
The triple doink? That's probably like 10-1 in these books. Somehow. Yeah, exactly. About 5,000 to 1, but
is it 2 or more? I would like. Can I get clarification?
How long will Demi Lovato take to sing the national anthem? The time is set at 2 minutes. I believe, Ben, and you might be able to correct me on this, that each of her last 2 national anthems, I think, have gone over. Last year was, Josh knows. Okay. Last year was super weird because I bet the over, and I'm almost certain that when I clocked it, it was under, but they paid the over. They paid out on the over for some odd reason. 2 minutes, Josh. Demi Lovato, national anthem.
I really like the over here. Is there any juice on it right now?
I don't think. I think they're both. Let me pull it up. I had it and I just lost it. Why do you like the over?
Okay, this is not going to be a popular explanation, but I do think that it is valid, so I am going to give it. She has very public struggles with anxiety, depression, mental health issues. Not a laughing matter. However, the Super Bowl is a pretty big gig. A lot of people watching you. I can only imagine you're going to be incredibly nervous, probably speeding up the way that you're talking or singing in this regard. I want the over, or sorry, I said over from the beginning. I want the under. My apologies. I think she's going to move a little too quickly through this song.
Oh, to get off the field.
Yes.
I was going to say, I like this logic, but you're I don't know how that gets over. I was interested to see how you put that in.
Like, is she just going to freeze up?
So I was thinking, like, it has been over per the research. I would like to go under. I think she speeds herself up a little bit. How many million people are going to be watching this? That's a lot of pressure. Okay. Demi, do you hear me? It's a lot of pressure.
You're not still muted, are you, Josh?
No, I'm not.
Okay, good. The chat, we got conflicting reports.
We're good.
This is what I'm here to talk about, Ben. This type of stuff.
It is. So on that note, one more Demi Lovato I have in front of me. Will she leave any word out of the anthem? If you say,
I love that one.
If you say yes, you get 5-1. If you say no, you have to lay minus 2,000 to win $100.
If Josh thinks she's nervous,
that's where I'm going.
Right?
Any word?
Oh, I like this.
Any word out plus 500.
I mean, that I feel like that's a yes to like most people. What if they don't say a word correctly? There are a lot of weird words that aren't words anymore in the national anthem, like apostrophe ER or however the hell you spell it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think if I had to like write it out, I'm not sure I would nail these words, no doubt about it. I mean, I don't know if we're going to get like a Mo Cheek situation to take it old school.
Oh yeah.
But any word out 5-1, you could do worse than that.
There are way worse bets than that.
It looks like now Bovada has it at 2 minutes and 4 seconds. So I think it's gone up with juice on the over. It's minus 125. Ben, what do you think, man?
He's moving markets. What can I say? Listen, I mean, obviously there's minimal but you got to pick a narrative and go with it. Just like Showdown, you got to pick a Demi Lovato narrative and go with it. If she's nervous, maybe she gets a little quick. Maybe she misses a word or two. We'd be cashing tickets left and right.
Yeah, that if that number's going up and I'm getting some love for the under, oh my God, sign me up right now. Demi, I'm sorry.
If only you could parlay that.
Yes. If you can find a place to parlay props, A, that book is broken, but B, you should do it immediately.
Oh yeah. I mean, don't expect them to ever pay you out your money.
I was just going to say, you'll never see those winnings.
But enjoy betting it.
Yeah.
How many songs will be played during the halftime show, Josh? Over under 8. Wow. Over's minus 245 on the over.
That drives me crazy. They treat these halftime shows like they're power hours. It's terrible. It's terrible. 8 is a lot. Hey, all right, they're probably gonna do a song that like we don't really know, but can you guys name 8 J-Lo plus Shakira songs right now?
Couldn't name 3 or 4.
Oh God, I can name 8.
I don't know. I mean,
I think so.
I might not be able to name any.
Well, hips don't
lie. Wherever, whenever.
Hips don't lie.
Jenny from the Block.
Underneath Your Clothes. That's a Shakira joint. That's a good track. Check that out right now. Once you're done here, stay on YouTube. Search for Shakira Underneath Your Clothes. Might be her best. Jenny from
Heart
the Block,
will go on.
Sure. My heart will go on.
Wrong
people. That's Celine Dion.
I was going to say,
I'm well aware.
I'm not. I'm like, wow, I didn't know that. Interesting. Oh, She-Wolf. Yeah. Okay.
That's a deep cut.
Mm.
And J-Lo tracks are going to be a lot easier.
Yeah, I mean, those are props. Not that I
Ain't
looked
it funny?
Some
good stuff.
What really got me was, and we've been talking about this throughout the show, Josh, the Gatorade. I don't want to say it's a scandal by any stretch, but let's talk about from the clouds. Purple is now minus 250.
I love this
on my screen. Everybody thinks that this is the Kobe tribute and whatnot. Is there value maybe going back to some of the traditional, lime, green, or yellow now plus 275 or orange 8-1?
So I talked to a guy that used to work for All Sport. Remember All Sport? Former carbonated sports drink beverage that failed.
It actually didn't taste that bad.
Horrible.
I used to drink it for hockey games.
Horrible.
It's no Powerade. It's no Gatorade.
So here's all that matters right now. Gatorade Zero. That is the key. Tastes like regular Gatorade, no sugar. You don't have to worry about it.
H2O.
Really?
I'm expecting lemon lime. I don't like the Kobe narrative. It's not like that is wildly off from yellow. Why does it got to be purple? And like, who drinks purple Gatorade? It's terrible.
I was my wife loves to do like these novelty bets. I told Ben, and she's like, I want lemon lime. I said, all right, well, that plus 400. Literally, the most money you could make if you're betting on Gatorade is on lemon lime. But the thing is, she's like, what is even purple Gatorade? I mean, I'm assuming it's just grape, right?
Yeah.
Like grape Gatorade.
Yeah.
You're right. Like, do people actually want lemon lime tastes the best?
Agreed. Or orange, I'm fine with.
Oh, what about red? I like red Gatorade.
Which
I
would
can
make
do
a lot
red.
of
I
sense.
like red Powerade better.
Here's the question. If the Chiefs win, do they dump gravy on Andy Reid?
Now that I would pay to see.
Is there a light brown color
that
you
would
can
just
bet
be
on? Just out of
that's
this
what
giant
Reed
gravy
inspires.
boat?
If I was running things, is it possible that they have purple Gatorade set aside and they won't be drinking it, but they just have it for tribute?
Just for dumping purposes?
I thought the
winning.
same thing, Ben.
Because I think there is a teams up until, I guess, on a serious note, they are somewhat superstitious. Like, I don't think they're going to want to radically change.
No.
I doubt teams have been having purple Gatorade each and every week.
I doubt they've ever had
not gonna
purple
start
Gatorade.
now.
I
What'd you say?
guarantee that I would guess there's never been purple Gatorade on a sideline unless it's the Vikings, and even then I'd be surprised.
Really?
I can't even picture ever buying one. And I've got a
I know.
case of Gatorade in my garage right now.
I don't know if I've ever had purple Gatorade.
You're right. I haven't. I've had like the pomegranate vitamin water that's kind of purple.
I don't think that has the same ring to it.
No. Yeah, I don't think so either. Okay, so let's go around the horn. I still say red. I still say it's going to be red. Both teams are red, by the way. With the odds change, I'll take the odds boost on red Gatorade. What about you, Ben?
I'm going to buck the trend too. I'm going to say yellow, green, and lime, which would have been towards the favorite at plus 275 is what I see on my screen. And not say, I'm going to say it's not purple. I'll put it to you like that.
Did you just call it yellow, green, and lime?
So on my book that I'm looking at, they have yellow, green, and lime
right.
all grouped together.
Got it. Okay, just clarification.
Yeah,
gotcha.
no, that's an important clarification too.
Josh, you're going lemon lime?
I am going lemon lime. Are you okay over there, by the way? I don't know if you're like getting the shakes thinking about lemon lime Gatorade.
No,
I mean,
are tough.
I'm excited, but
Laffy had an experience with Gatorade in the past that wasn't actually Gatorade. It was PP.
Yeah, we're not getting into that one.
I just got into it right now. Also, to the people in chat, that I love when people call Gatorade by the color. Like, yo, purple Gatorade is decent. Blue and lemon lime are go-to. Lemon lime is a flavor. Blue is not. Blue is just a color. It's weird that we describe these things that not by the way they taste, but by the color.
I'm guilty of that, so I can't hate.
It is true though, and it's odd. All right, here's a good one. How many public Instagram posts will Patrick Mahomes' girlfriend post on February 2nd? Over 4.5, under 4.5, minus 135. So looks like you go over here, Josh, and you put yourself in a favorable position.
I have no idea who this woman is.
Oh, you haven't seen her in her posts?
No, I follow a lot of. I follow us on Instagram. A lot of food pictures, and then my doggy daycare. I don't do a lot of Instagramming.
Okay, so there's one on how many TikToks. You know what TikTok is?
Unfortunately, I know significantly more about TikTok than Pat Mahomes' girlfriend.
And I know I don't know what I'm thinking of. Is it Tic Tacs?
No.
No. Yes.
Like,
how many Tic Tacs are going to be in Andy Reid's
What's
pocket?
TikToks?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't it just like a revamped Vine, basically?
Little longer videos, but essentially,
okay, videos.
Yes.
So for some reason, his brother is minus 220 on 5.5. So what?
Whose brother?
Patrick Mahomes.
I didn't know he had a brother.
Me neither.
What's his name?
Things out on the fly.
What's his name?
I have no idea. But that's a lot of TikTok. So I want to ask both of you guys this.
Okay.
How many times will the Patriots 28-3 comeback be mentioned? Ben, over 0.5. So you need one of these is minus 380.
Oh, wow.
Under is plus 240.
I'll say this, and then Josh, I want to get your thoughts on this. If you want to go to the under in this, I think the best narrative you can use is it's supposed to be a competitive game. Obviously, if one team gets out to a big lead, they're going to reference it.
Yeah.
But if it's very tight, maybe it doesn't come up. Still, of course, not likely.
I have a hard time believing that it doesn't happen once. It's just going to be like, we do remember back in blah 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 when the Patriots came back. But yeah, if it's close, it'll never come up again. And if it's a blowout, it will 100%.
Oh, well, that's a given.
No question. That'll be the first thing mentioned, and it'll be probably mentioned at least 3 times. That's it. You're right, Ben. It totally is dependent or contingent upon what direction this game takes. I think it stays close. So I don't know. Is the mentioning it 0 times worthwhile?
It's not bad. I'll be honest. Of all the props we've talked about so far, and we'll have a couple more, and then we'll give final thoughts and whatnot. Demi Lovato missing a word. I'm going to go back to that. I might actually just bet that for fun at 5-1.
By the way, parlay that if you can find that crazy book with the under. The more words you skip, the shorter the anthem becomes.
We have alternate lines on Demi Lovato national anthem too. Like, Josh, if you think she wants to be in and out, you can bet under 1 minute and 55 seconds plus 275.
Ooh, that might be a little too quick for me. That might be a little too quick.
Eats through it.
Yeah, that might be a little too quick for me. Yeah, I would need a little bit more on that one.
Are you a coin toss guy, Josh?
I mean, have I bet on the coin toss before? The answer is absolutely yes.
Same with me. I'm ashamed to admit that, but yeah, I have.
Clearly not anything that I would really recommend. But I don't have a lean if that's what you're asking me.
Yeah, that's a public service announcement. I'll give a couple. One, obviously, everyone who's been hanging out and staying with us through the whole show, we really do appreciate it. This has been super fun. If you can hit the like button, it really helps us out. Two, if you see anyone seriously saying I have a lean in the coin toss, that's people you don't ever want to listen to in life. Let me just put that right out there.
Well, do you remember 3 years ago, a site messed up and had like tails at even money and heads at minus 110?
Yes, I do remember that actually. I forgot exactly what happened, but yeah, it was like an arbitrage situation where you could bet both sides somehow. Yeah, plus money. It was because something stupid. It was like, oh, it's been heads. It's been heads like 10 times in a row for them, as if that matters.
My guess was that they took in a lot of action on the opposite side and were just like, okay, we need to make a little bit of this back.
No, yeah, it was something along the lines of one of the teams had been heads like an astronomical amount in a row, and then they're like, people were starting to think that there was a trend.
Crazy.
Those people probably do fantastic playing roulette.
Yeah.
So let's go around the horn before we close this out. Ben and I were going to do a closing segment, but this has been too much fun. So we'll just keep Josh on with us till the bottom of the hour, close it out at 2:00. Plus, then you don't have to do as much producing, taking yourself out, putting us back in. We'll close it out. Seamless transition here. And like Ben said, definitely appreciate all you guys hanging with us throughout these 2 hours. Hit that thumbs up button. It's the easiest way to support us and help this channel and the site grow. So we appreciate all of you for that. Let's go around the horn. Our favorite novelty prop for this week. I'm going to give you mine right now. Tom Bovada, total Donald Trump tweets on February 2nd. The over 13.5, under 13.5. Now, the under's juiced minus 165, but this does not include retweets. Now, this man is doing an interview on the night of the Super Bowl. There's plenty of stuff going on. I think the under is a lock here because most of this man's tweets, most of President Trump's tweets are retweets. Not most of them, but many of them. Like, I think he had over 100 retweets in one day a couple of days ago.
Yeah. Wait, so retweets don't count?
Retweets don't count. 14 tweets, even for him, like original tweets, seems like a lot.
Yes, it's going to go under. It's going to go under. He'll be victory lapping by then. But I have a feeling he'll be victory lapping with a lot of retweets, not personal tweets, if I had to guess.
For sure.
It's too many tweets.
All right. Josh, what do you have?
I do have one here in the queue. I don't want to get this wrong. So it's a little bit outside the realm of the Super Bowl, but it is Super Bowl adjacent. This is a Puppy Bowl 16 prop that we've got going on right now.
Love it. Yeah. Love it.
So right now, yes, plus 350, no, minus 600. I like a bet on the yes here because I think it's more fun to cheer for. Will a puppy attempt to mate? I'm going with yes.
I love it.
I'm going with yes here. Have it on good authority. They're slipping something into their food before the game, feeling a little frisky. No, this isn't an ad for Get Roman or anything along those lines. However, that would be great product placement. But plus 350 on will a puppy attempt to mate. Got to go.
Love it.
Well, I'll have to I'll have to let May know about that. She's a big Puppy Bowl fan. Maybe we can get some action in that.
There's going to be some action, all right. Plus 350 on that action.
I see what you did there. I'm not going to be too creative. Like I said, we covered what I liked. I'm going to go with some national anthem. We've got her leaving a word out. The last one, and then we can bounce on out of here. Demi Lovato, Mike on a stand is minus.
I saw that.
Not on a stand plus 225. I have no feeling. I just thought that would be something more towards even, but I guess the Mike is probably going to be on a stand.
So wait, which is favored?
That her Mike is on a Mike stand. Minus 320.
It speaks to Josh's, and by the way, the fact that like we're actually running with this narrative is hilarious.
That's why I'm good at this, man.
Her rigidity and nervousness. I can't imagine she stands there without a mic stand. She just stand there stiff as a board, right?
Oh, she's gonna be shaking like crazy. Like crazy.
It only makes sense. Hey, by the way, LIV is the promo code. LIV, it's 54 in Roman numerals to get your first month of Awesemo Plus Platinum membership for $54. That's normally $90. It's a $36 discount with the Super Bowl approaching. $54. LIV is the promo code. Be sure to use that. And once our Awesemo NFL account Twitter account reaches 5,000 followers, we're going to do the biggest giveaway we've done yet on Awesemo.com. And the last thing here, we've got free content today on the site at Awesemo.com. If you want to go and check that out, what you've got to look forward to as I work my way over and my computer freezes up, but don't worry.
I've got it.
We're here. I got it.
Okay. I know it off the top of my head.
I don't have it.
Go ahead. We got ownership projections for basketball, Super Draft NBA projections, NFL Showdown rankings, and the NHL live blog. All of that in one day, huh, fellas?
Yeah. We're good like that.
All right. Ben, final thoughts. We'll turn it over to Josh and we'll bounce.
No, like I said, everyone enjoy the game. We're going to still have some follow-up content. Of course, if you're in Slack, we'll be around answering questions. And then last thing, Josh Engelman, do you even want to give a prediction for the game?
You have to.
I predict that I won't see a single second of it.
That's the biggest lock we've given so far.
Yeah.
Are you really not going to watch it?
No, I won't see any of it.
Stop it.
I'm not kidding. I haven't seen a Super Bowl in a while.
Will you get good food?
I'll probably eat some pizza or something. It won't be good pizza.
Are you doing a Super Bowl party or you just stay home?
I will stay home.
If you
I slept through the Patriots-Falcons game.
What?
Yeah, I don't. It's not that interesting.
This is why we brought him on for novelty props, folks.
Right. I'll watch whatever commercials people like the day after.
I love it. All right. Final scores. Josh, you have to give one anyway. I'll give mine first. Chiefs 34, San Francisco 49ers 31, 65 total points, 3-point margin of victory for the Chiefs. Ben, what do you have?
I'll go Niners 24, Chiefs 20.
Staying true to yourself, rocking the under. Heavy under there.
Yeah.
All right, Josh, what do you have?
So everything that I have touched this NFL season has gone to crap. Every guy I picked to get 100 yards and a touchdown has failed miserably, or
got Calvin Ridley,
or got one touch to start the game and was removed for the rest of the game while his backup went absolutely bonkers. So understand where you're going with this if you're trying to follow my lead. Chiefs 34, 49ers 14.
Oh, beautiful.
Don't think this one's close.
All right. Love it. Hey, that'll do it for us. Thanks again to Super Draft for sponsoring the show. You'll get $20 in free Super Cash. Just use the promo code AWESOMO when you sign up and deposit $100 or more. Check out their NBA contests and their NFL contests tonight at superdraft.io or download it in the App Store. For Josh Engelman, Ben Rasa, myself, Dave Lochran, thanks for hanging out. It's been a fun one. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the Super Bowl and stick around for all of our content and programming coming up throughout the rest of the day right here at awesemo.com.